Good afternoon. This afternoon I will present you my effort and my experiment to use anthropomorphism, Aesop's fables, in lifelong learning and vocational education through memes stimulation. The presentation and the experiment questions whether and examines how Aesop's fables can be incorporated into vocational and lifelong adult education. It is an effort to find innovative ways in order to transmit new ways of thinking and acting to the adult audience successfully. Storytelling, fables, and traditional stories can work as a means for conveying messages. Fables consist a major part of the European cultural heritage. If used properly, fables can create a civilized, creative, and interactive training environment. This may apply to all levels of education. Aesop's fables are short stories which contain dialogues between humans, animals, plants, and gods that have a moral teaching. Using Aesop's fables in vocational education allows for a wide variety of issues that can be addressed regarding the ethics of numerous business practices. The wrong or guilty behavior of characters in Aesop's fables can often find their equal in real-life situations that deal with foul business-to-business or business-to-customer relations. This can be easier identified in fable characters' interactions rather than in scientific books. Anthropomorphic fables is the type of fables that has been chosen for this purpose because humans can more easily relate themselves to human-like situations, even when those are being reproduced by non-human beings. Anthropomorphism attributes human traits such as emotions and speech to non-human beings. For example, to a god, an animal, a plant, a sound, or a weather phenomenon. Derived from the Greek word anthropos and the Greek word morphe, anthropomorphism attributes life to the inanimate. It is often used in stories, theology, cartoons, digital design, even in robots. Aesop was first known for writing anthropomorphic stories, while Walt Disney is best known for using anthropomorphic cartoons characters in his work. Lifelong learning is the effort to make people's mind change and guide them in order to acquire methods of improving their job skills and personal performance. What is memes? A meme is a cultural feature or a type of behavior that is passed from one generation to another without the influence of genes. Just as genes propagate themselves in the gene pool by leaping from body to body via sperms or eggs, so memes propagate themselves in the meme pool by leaping from brain to brain through a process which, in a broader sense, can be called imitation or mimesis from the Greek word mimesis. The aims of the study is to stress the importance of how the synergy between tradition, as Aesop's fables in this situation, professionally established economic business practices, and vocational education can promote entrepreneurship. Also, the aim of the study is to examine how storytelling can be incorporated into vocational education in order to achieve a common target. Also, to awaken the memes from the students' childhood memories, which as a result can contribute to the deeper understanding of behavioral issues. And finally, to make vocational education an entertaining teaching process. Fables and myths can be used as aids in order to facilitate the acquisition of scientific knowledge in vocational education and mentoring. Participants may develop a positive attitude towards lifelong learning since the do and don'ts, which are usually applied in vocational education methods are here replaced by the interpretation of fables. It also, this study examines how participants' means are awakened. Consequently, one may say that vocational education can be referred to as having an experiential and sentimental character. So, what is the method and the research? A fable was chosen, photocopied and delivered to participants. The method. Participants were answered 4 questions. What is the main idea, the moral conclusion of this fable? Is your company giving promises? What means does it use to achieve its goal? The third question was, do your clients feel that their promises given have been kept? How can you reach this conclusion? And the fourth question was, did the fable moral conclusions help you have a better understanding of the gap between questions 2 and 3? So, the method. The experiment has been tested with 3 kinds of participants. Participants at a business seminar organized by the Greek National Confederation of Commerce. Those participants were owners or employees of small, medium enterprises. Secondly, to participants at a social enterprise seminar who were university graduates holding public administration positions, and to the third group who were unemployed with a previous working experience. We have lots of them now in Greece. The myth. The myth was the shepherd's boy. There once was, that's a story I'm telling you, there once was a young shepherd boy who tended his sheep at a mountain. For the sake of some excitement, he faked the attack of wolves and called the villagers who rushed for help. This pleased the boy so much that a few days afterwards he repeated the trick. When a wolf actually did come out from the forest, the villagers who had been fooled twice before did not show up. The wolf made a good meal of the boy's flock, and when the boy complained, the wise man of the village said, "A liar will not be believed even when he speaks the truth." What I did with this fable, with this myth, I told them the gap analysis. This is an analysis in marketing in which we say that the company has to keep the promises that it gives to customer, and then I explained them the commercial example of this fable. The group was split into groups of 5. Thereupon, the copy of the fable, the picture, and the 4 questions was distributed. The participants were given 10 minutes to read the fable and contemplate. Then they were given another 10 minutes to work in groups of 5. The leader of each group made an oral presentation. And finally, every participant answered the questions. The reaction of participants was mainly positive. It's about 92% positive answers that I will not now tell you due to the time limit we have. Okay, we go on. And the conclusions. Fables seems to complement lectures concerning vocational education successfully. Participants showed willingness to participate in group work and express their opinion and emotions. The memes were awakened by the narration of fables and helped in the educational process. Participants showed willingness to help the research go further. Further research. In the continuous quest for finding efficient methods of making lifelong learning a continuous and efficacious process, other ways and techniques of incorporating fables into vocational education also remain to be seen. Apart from the fables that were used in this research, one can use other means such as fairy tales, local fables, myths, traditional storytelling, and shadow theater. Which multicultural aspects and benefits for the vocational education can be derived if a comparative experiment are realized during an international training event? Which other ways exist in order to create an entertaining and creative environment during the learning process? Can vocational education not only transmit knowledge, but also be considered as experiential and entertaining? If we recall the participants' memes, is it possible to brainstorm ideas and concepts? And finally, which other memes can be used into vocational education, excluding the above, that can create a receptive environment? Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Any comments?
I think it's very interesting how you're using the fables. And Aesop, I think, is pretty well known, at least in the United States and apparently in Greece. I've tried to think what other kinds of fables I teach in undergrad and graduate, but undergrad I use it more, a case from Robin Hood, that I just thought the authors were brilliant when they put that together. I've been able to use a very short case on Robin Hood from the beginning to the end. There's so much material on there that I think this is excellent. It keeps the students' interest, and you can bring back an awful lot of knowledge and information.
Becomes experiential.
Yeah.
They feel it.
Is it because of, you say that it awakens the memes, that means that it provokes some sentiment and it makes students be more attentive to the class? Or?
Of course, and also I felt that especially to unemployment people, I gave it a cultural aspect in the training, because maybe we know the myths, it's a tradition, but there are so many myths and traditional stories that one forget life and difficulties. And so you can give them and some social meanings, and in Greece we need those.
Well, and do you think that if you were to take this model in another culture, you would have to choose the fable or story that meant something to them, the ones they're told as children to teach moral, tales, and then you pick the appropriate one for your audience to get them emotionally involved with the issue? I mean, is that kind of what you're saying here?
Yes.
So that for your students, this fable, they're like, oh, I've always heard this as a child, don't lie, no one will believe you,
Don't cry wolf.
Don't cry wolf. And then the Robin Hood one as well. Everybody knows, take from the rich, give to the poor,
It's a very short.
What class do you use it?
Strategic management.
Strategic
It's coordination, it's strategic planning for what are they going to do in the future, it's how do they handle the issues that are coming up for coordination, maybe geographic expansion, as the group gets too large, and then Robin doesn't know them all, how does he handle that, what are his merry men, they're his officers. I mean, you have to tell the students, look at it from an organization perspective.
But I do think it does create interest. Where your students can just sit there and tune out everything you're saying. Sometimes something like this will get them engaged in the material.
And the allegory of the myth, I mean, it keeps you, science might be, academic people might become too scientific at times, and people have no interest to follow, although what they say is interesting, of course. And you can simplify the meaning out of the class by saying a short myth. Yes.
And it could be very interesting to compare Latin American traditional stories and Greek fables to see the results. It could be very interesting. And the paper is written on the case that I'm publishing my new book in Greece, which under the title Aesop's Fables and Entrepreneurship. It will be published by end of December.
I do find, though, that foreign students rarely know Robin Hood.
Yeah.
I have to give them background information, fill in the gaps a little bit.
I think it has to do with a lot of demographics, because it's like the Superman, the billions, the heroine, who's the good, the bad. So it has to do a lot with that, and it has to be in a cultural context too.
Yeah.
Because something in Latin America, it's the poor and the rich. That's what is gonna make it the construct. Over there, probably gonna be something else. So everyone has to have a meaning to make most out of it. How can you relate to that live experience that they're presenting?
But Robin Hood was very famous in Mexico, for example.
It
was there also.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in the Dominican Republic, we grew up reading Aesop's fables, and Robin Hood is also very well known.
It's
So it might be more
Middle East,
some of the little.
Japanese,
Just one third. I mean, can you have any kind of data that who are undergone through this kind of fables or Robinson Wood or whatever, right? And can you look at the, some sort of data and run the model, which one is more effective?
that's an empirical question.
Oh yeah. I want to go with the figure.
Make some numbers on that thing. Thank you, everyone. You guys did a great job.